Welcome everyone to this Sunday morning. It is very late summer, isn't it? We had a little rain this morning. It was delightful and signs. Oh, a little louder. Move this up. So we just finished a sesshin. For this one, it was 5 days of practice with the focus on Jizo Bodhisattva. And I'd like to just give you the overview for those of you who are new to this place or this practice, what it is that we're talking about, kind of set the stage. And at some point, probably towards the end, we'd like to hear from the people who did attend and really maybe get a better sense of the jewel that was this retreat by hearing from the different facets. And I don't know what's going to happen in between. I don't know what Chozen's going to say, so. So we have offered this retreat to focus on Jizo Bodhisattva. This time we focused on the aspect of Jizo of great vows. And that is the origin of the name of this monastery, Great Vow Zen Monastery. So this is a very close relationship with this archetypal energy is a way that we can think of a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is a being who does not enter nirvana, but who stays back to help all beings until everyone is free. And that is a great vow. Jizo is a bodhisattva of one of many. Each of them has kind of a particular way of being, a way of helping beings. Jizo is said to be a protector of all that is born from the earth. Is often known to be a protector of women, of children who have died, and all the beings in the 6 realms of existence. Hell realms, animal realms, hungry ghost realms. These are figurative things or mythical kinds of places. Hungry ghosts are beings that are starving and they're unable to take in any food. Their throats are so tiny and anything that comes in, even just water, feels like burning, so their bellies are swollen and they're just always wanting and craving and wanting and craving. And then we have the heavenly realms where there's really not any suffering at all. Opulent. And then the jealous God realms. I think of that as like politics and celebrities. People who have billions of dollars but still want more. Somewhere in between all of this is the human realm. And it is said that here in the human realm there's just enough ease and just enough suffering so that we'll actually practice. I find that to be true. So again, we can see these as mythical planes of existence. You know, where do we go after we die? What happens? These mysterious questions. But we can also see these realms as our very own existence at any given moment. We've certainly all known the unquenchable craving of a hungry ghost, haven't we? And there are people living in hell realms and war zones as we speak. So the qualities of Jizo Bodhisattva include benevolence or friendliness. How do we meet this world with friendliness and unflagging optimism, which may be seemingly quite rare right now. Fearlessness, great determination, and great vow. So we focused on the aspect of vow, we focused on a little bit on what constitutes a vow, and that is a great aspiration. How do I want to be? What do I want to bring to this suffering world? What is my life about? Who do I admire, and how can I embody something? How do I meet that aspiration in my own embodiment, in my own life? And what's required is a resoluteness to do what we need to do, to keep doing what we need to do, because of course there will be obstacles, of course there will be difficulties. How do we maintain a vow in the face of difficulty and not get thrown off course? A vow is like our compass or our North Star that helps us to continually reorient when inevitably we become confused or turned around. Many of us have an aspiration for peace. Many of us have come here because we would like peace. Or maybe we're looking for peace, or we might be looking for peace out there. I don't know that it's to be found out there. Our news streams filled with war, political upheavals, and these have effects that we can see clearly. And there's a contagion of rage or terror or despair. And that's the kind of thing that challenges us. We might get confused or blown off course. The Bodhisattva vow is to awaken for the sake of all beings. To awaken. To realize what's really true for the sake of all beings. To be of benefit in this world of darkness. To offer a light in the darkness. That's who we can be. So we come to Sesshin. We take days and days to settle. It does take real time. How many people who were here, how peaceful was your mind on day 1 or 2? Anybody? Yeah, not so much. A little bit, not much. So we create a container together where we support each other to return over and over and over. Every single aspect of this place is all about returning us to what's happening right now, right now, right now, right now. The sounds, the life. Just this. We've got some little teachers in the room. It's always right now for them. They haven't forgotten that. So in this ability to return, our view widens, our view brightens, we see more clearly. We take what we're given and offer it once again. And with that, I will turn it over. Well, I was hoping you would. Okay.
Jomon mentioned that this Jizo Sesshin is sometimes, after people come to it, they say, oh, that was a stealth sesshin, because we do a craft period in the afternoon from about 3 o'clock to about 5 o'clock. And in the past, we have painted Jizo stones with Jizo on them and sayings sometimes, or Jizo dedicated to a specific kind of difficulty. And you should tell in a minute about your stone project, okay? Then this year and last year, we made little portable altars, Jizo altars. So we had ways of making Jizos, both out of clay and out of peg people. That's a term. That's a hobby term, a craft term. Little wooden figures that you can turn into people, which Jomon, the crafty one in this group, developed. And then we had all kinds of craft material because both of us had accumulated over the years sequins and little jewels and flowers and cloth and glue and all kinds of supplies. And it's a very interesting process when people start to make anything having to do with art. Because what arises when you just look at the materials? Often it's the inner critic. And the inner critic says, I don't know why you're thinking you can do this. You really don't have any artistic ability at all. And then it keeps complaining, so it makes you very worried about what you're doing, and you can't find the right material, and you spend half an hour sorting through material, and then there's nothing there that satisfies you. It's not you, it's the inner critic. But once you get going, I was actually going to call on Gensei because he gave a little, at our closing circle, said something interesting. Do you remember what he said? Mm-hmm. You want to quote? You're better at quoting. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Where is Gensei?
He's
not here. Oh, no. That's why, okay. Yeah, he said that the first day he was sitting there and saying, this is dumb. This is so dumb.
Okay, how old is that voice? This is really dumb. That's like 6 years old, maybe.
5, 6 years old.
Right. So that's inner critic based, right? So he had all this resistance. Maybe we'll just do this so we can pass it back and forth more easily. He had all this resistance to starting. And so what is that voice based in? What underlying emotion? This is dumb. I don't want to do this. What's the underlying emotion? Fear. Fear or anxiety. Anxiety is the pervasive form of fear in our society. And it's fear of failing at whatever you've set yourself to. And the inner critic, the fear that the inner critic raises, can stop you in your tracks from trying new things. So it can close your life down smaller and smaller. So part of the reason for making these boxes is not only to create something that you could have at home or you can take in a suitcase when you travel and you go to some, Best Western hotel room because you're traveling for business and it's very generic, the room, and you can set up your altar and then you can chant or meditate in your hotel room. Or you can give it to someone who might benefit from it too. So it can be given as a gift. So you have to get over that initial reluctance, and Jomon had a very nice way of telling people to do that pretend you're in kindergarten and your inner critic hasn't arisen and taken you over yet, and the teacher just spreads out paper and paints and says, go for it. And nobody minds if you make something that you can recognize as a thing or not. You're just having fun with color and with paint. And that's the state we want to move towards, is the childlike state. The childlike state of innocence. Everything is actually new. Every moment is new. Every day is new. Every week is new. Every time we open our eyes in the morning, it's a whole new experience, even if we've done it before. So one of the things we did is a lantern procession through the woods, and we did one whole loop through the Jizo garden at night, and then for me it was so much fun stumbling around in the dark and watching these beautiful lanterns moving through the darkness, that I turned to the two people behind me, and one of them was Ryugen, and I said, should we go around again? And he said, sure. And Ramsey said, sure. So we went around again. But part of that was noticing the difference when you go around the second time. And did anybody notice any differences? Yeah. Okay, so let's get a microphone to those people who are nodding over there and ask them what they noticed. So this is part of presence, is no moment is the same as the one that just happened. Right? Every moment is new, but our mind kind of washes over it with a fog and says, oh, I did this before. So what did you notice? I've got several people over there.
I really enjoyed the ceremony, but I had a feeling of, like this activity is very exciting to my mind, so I can't really sink into it, and that was frustrating. But then when we got to go around the second time, I was like, oh, like now I'm like a little more relaxed and I can be more present. So it was like a second chance to pay more attention and like sink more into the ritual of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Georgia. And yeah.
One of the things that felt really good about going the second time is that chance to experience it again, but new. And it had gotten a little darker. So I noticed that the little bits that I could see were around the lantern. So it was I enjoy the exercise of thinking of the lantern as my attention, and then I would just direct it to new things. And then I was only just focused on whatever the attention was focused on, and then halfway through I was like, oh, I have another hand, so I changed the lantern to the other hand, and then did the same thing on the other side, and it was, just nice to think about, as it got darker, the focus of my attention, and I could kind of choose where I could go with it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Georgia?
I didn't realize we were going around a second time until a quarter of the way through the second time. It all felt so new. I was like, the Jizo garden got much bigger. And I would say the second time I also, of course, sort of different figures came forward, but I was able to see the sky. And to be able to, my perception was able to take in more height, which was, it was so tender.
One of the reasons we did thank you, Georgia, thank you, everybody. One of the reasons we did the procession in the woods in the dark is this is very ancient in terms of human beings having to move in the dark, in the forests, with small sources of light. So it can awaken a kind of reverence and a fear. But the fear is energy which can be used in terms of the reverence or in presence, being really present with what we can see. The other person who said something that I thought was interesting about, let's see, I saw her, Julia, would you say something about what you saw when you were doing your box?
Just talking about my experience of making the box.
Yes.
So I participate in a lot of crafting in my life, and I was really curious about what happens when I get that absorbed in something, because it can feel like I just disappear completely. And I was just watching that happen during the craft period of like, is this absorption? Am I present, or am I just not here at all? And I was starting to notice, I think part of the feeling of not, like, feeling like I'm not there is that my mind is not talking at all. but I was noticing that there was really poignant moments of emotion, or like I would do something I liked and just feel joy and no other thoughts around it. And I didn't have a lot of time during sesshin, I think about like what's happening next or start to plan things, and I was just in this space of like nothing but the emotion I was feeling, which was really interesting.
And you just describe that as a timeless realm.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. So this is very related to what happens in meditation. So what we call peak moments, we all know peak moments. They don't last usually in our life, but they're moments when we're completely present and time disappears. And it might be looking at the sky at night and suddenly being pulled into the vastness of the universe and the insignificance of this little person standing on this planet. Could be watching a sunset. Anything could be just turning the corner on a walk in the forest, and suddenly everything is gleaming, and you just stop. Or it could be an auto accident. Once, when I lived in Africa, somebody was driving a car went around a curve on a gravel road too fast, and the car started to skid, and time stopped. For me, it just stopped and so in slow motion we skidded, and we landed in a ditch. Unfortunately, nobody was injured, but then time started again. So everyone has usually had an experience of entering the timeless realm. And the other thing that Doyu said is the self disappears. It's just pure awareness. There was no anxiety in me when the car started to skid. It was just total presence and the slowing down of time. And of course, the wonderful thing about that is in the present moment, the inner critic has no grab, has no traction. The inner critic depends on past and future, depends on its filing cabinet of all the things you've done wrong in the past and saying, oh, here, you did it again. This is a stupid mistake. It was like April, it was a Wednesday afternoon, and blah, 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 you did it before. And what an idiot, stop making these same mistakes. And the inner critic is really it's also a child, and it's also afraid for our safety. But it expresses that fear through anxiety and makes us afraid, which is not a pleasant place to be, and is not a way that we would talk to a child or a baby or even a pet. So when we're totally in the present moment, the inner critic has no traction. The other thing that Gensei said is after he went through that experience of, oh, this is stupid, is he started it and then he actually plunged into it. So he moved past that fear and anxiety and plunged into it and actually enjoyed himself. It's really important that we know our own minds. So Jizo holds a jewel, the Sintamani jewel, the wish-fulfilling jewel, it's called. And when Jizo descends into the hell realms where people are suffering, that jewel shines and helps people find their way out of that realm of suffering. So our mind, our own mind, has that ability, has that quality. And when you enter a timeless space or timeless experience in sitting, it's like the pure consciousness that our mind represents is glowing. And often, when we rest in that space, insight will arise. Not only just artistic movement of the hands and, oh yeah, I should put this here or do that without thinking about it, but insight about something we've been pondering for quite a while can suddenly emerge. So our mind is actually that jewel. When our mind is quiet and is not constantly talking or criticizing or emoting, then out of that comes deeper truth. And those deeper truths can seem almost insignificant, like, oh, actually I'm having fun. But it was recognizing the fear and stepping beyond it to see what was bigger than that is what our practice offers to us. Anything more you want to say?
Well, we had quite a few different practices, the creative process being just one of them, and it was really lovely to see people meet that in all the different ways. And each of them is a unique expression. Each person had a particular intention that they wanted to bring. Maybe they were a gift or some expression of the quality of Jizo or a wish to have a reminder. So you'll get to see them. They're in the cafeteria on display, the ones that were made this week, and some of the very early prototypical portable shrines that were made out of upcycled tins, tuna tins or sardine tins or whatever. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is broken. So some other practices that we did, Jizo being the protector of all that is born from the earth, we endeavored to reconnect, not that we ever were disconnected from the earth, because what in fact are we made of? And so to acknowledge that during the meals, that we're directly experiencing the fruit of the earth. It is becoming and is our body that is transformed into meditation, into enlightened activity. And touching the earth with our feet, physically experiencing those sensations of being in connection and really not ever having been separate from. Is there anything in here that you can see, feel, taste, touch that is not from the earth? All of the objects, the fabrics, even the air and the atmosphere. Although we do borrow sunlight, don't we? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything from the earth. Yeah, Hogan mentioned this morning, including plastic. That Jizo is also the Bodhisattva of plastic. So that'll be something to think about. We're doing a retreat next weekend at the ocean called Oceans of Compassion, which is in conjunction with the Solve beach cleanup, which has been a yearly, over 50 years, the state of Oregon cleans up, people volunteer to clean up the entire Oregon coast on one day, and it's a week from today, on Saturday. And we used to, even 10 years ago, Bancho and I started going, and we used to find great big items of trash. We'd have these giant garbage bags full of junk. Very satisfying, deeply satisfying. We thought we should invite everybody to do this. This is amazing. But we don't find so much of that anymore on the coast. Really at all. You don't need a big trash bag, but what you do need is a strainer, a little strainer to get all the microplastic. That's mostly what's on there, and it's in the tide line, and it's just a little ways down. So that's what we do, is little by little sift through the sand. And, what we do matters. What we do matters. Do we really believe that? This is an activity that can really challenge that, pithy saying. But do we really know that is true? So, Jizo also the protector of all that is born from the earth, even plastic.
So, how is Beach Cleanup Day part of your vows, you and Bancho, that you started doing that?
Part of my vows is to be of service, the overarching vow has always been to relieve suffering. And what I've found is Dharma practice is an extremely powerful way to relieve suffering. And yet, coming to a sesshin, a whole week of silent meditation, feels like a pretty big ask for a lot of people. But going to a solved beach cleanup on the ocean, now that sounds pretty good. That may be more somebody's speed who's just starting out, or as another expression of practice. So it's this invitation to practice. That's what it became. How do we turn this activity into Bodhisattva action and invite other people? Bansho, do you want to speak to this?
Share about how choosing. This is a question for you. I'm hitting back to you, like pickleball. That when you care about the earth, you chose the ocean, and this helps to point people to how vows manifest. Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah, so hearing about climate change and all of the different things, there were some aspects I realized that were overwhelming. Like I had a lot of difficulty, looking at the starving polar bears, or whatever's out there. And yet I found all the trash in the ocean and learning about the great garbage patch and the gyres that are churning the stuff around. I found it really interesting to learn about. So it became an area that I felt like, okay, this'll be the thing that I can do. I'm going to leave the orangutans and the polar bears to someone else and trust that that's someone else's thing that they're doing. I'm going to do this. And the Bodhisattva of compassion is Kanzeon, and her element, Jizo's element, is earth. Her element is water. And so this is also a beautiful expression of Buddha Dharma and of our tradition, this embodiment of the Bodhisattva vow in that particular form, too, really was and is very powerful to me, was kind of an entry gate for me into this practice as well.
And we know that the plastic contamination of the oceans is killing wildlife. It's killing turtles. We've all seen people rescuing whales even from plastic netting that they've gotten embedded in. And there are some very pitiful videos of seabirds, baby seabirds, taking and eating plastic and dying in agony. So there's many benefits to whatever we can do, however small. Now, however small is important, because during our Kshiti Garbha ceremony, which we held last night here in the Zendo, there's a reading that's done from a sutra. And in the sutra, the Buddha is giving his last sermon. And all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas manifest to come hear this sermon. And the Buddha is giving it directly to his mother, his biological mother, who died about a week after he was born. And he was raised by his aunt. And so Jizo has the ability to transform into hundreds of thousands of what are called division bodies. So wherever Jizo is needed, Jizo will transform into what's needed in that situation. So Jizo could be a dog that comforts someone who's mentally ill and prevents them from committing suicide. Jizo could be a tree. So during our Grasses and Trees retreat, people go out and sit under trees, and after their mind is quiet, they can ask the tree a question, and often an answer appears. Now, where did that come from? Was it deep in our own mind, and the tree was just a catalyst to bring it out, or did it come from the tree? Where did it come from? So Jizo can be a king, Jizo can be a person begging on the street, and so on. Whatever will help liberate living beings. So the Buddha gives his sermon, and he says that he's very he's very worried about the people he has been unable to save while he was alive, and now he's dying, and those people will be left behind. So even the Buddha, this is a little comforting, even the Buddha couldn't save everybody. So we can't save everybody. We need to pick our domain. So Jizo said, he said essentially, don't worry, Buddha. Even if their good deeds are as little as a drop of water, a grain of sand, a mote of dust, or a bit of down, I shall bring living beings to liberation. So Jizo is saying, I can find the goodness in anyone, and then I can bring that forth and open that up. And one of the things I wrote about in the Vows book is conversions of people. My father was very interested in this too. So I sort of picked up that idea from him. But there, in the book, there are stories of people who were in gangs where they would, white supremacist gangs where they would go out and cause trouble, maybe even murder black people, Oriental people, torture them, make their lives miserable. And so there are two people in there. One of them had been a member of this gang for quite a while, but had small children. And his son was watching TV, and a group of black people came on who were singing. And his little boy jumped up and turned off the TV. And his father said, "Why'd you do that?" And he said, "Oh, Dad, we don't like those people. We hate those people." And suddenly, like an arrow pierced the father's heart. What was he doing? What kind of person was he raising in the world? And he had an instantaneous conversion. And now he goes around talking about the opposite, about loving everyone and taking care of everyone. In terms of vows, there are so many ways we can discern our vows and then act on our vows. So we've done gratitude practice in the past, like Ongo period, both downtown at the temple and here for 3 months, we did gratitude practice. The research shows it's very potent. And it isn't something you only have to do at night before you go to bed, where you write down 3 to 5 things you're grateful for. That's a very powerful practice, as long as you're doing it. But you can do it all day long. For example, if I go to get my car filled up with gas, I'm so grateful that 18-year-old comes out of the fast food place that sells kratom and so on, and fills up my car with gas and is kind to me. Because what would I do without him? Can I go find gas? Can I bring it out of the earth? So then I'm grateful for the people who bring it up out of the earth. Maybe eventually we'll all have electric vehicles, but right now I have a gasoline one. And I can't dig up gasoline out of the earth and refine it and put it in something that will contain it, keep it safe, and put it in my car. So I'm grateful not only to the young guy who fills my gas tank, but to everybody in that chain who makes it possible for me to go to the grocery store. Then you can start in the grocery store, and follow the chain of, here you've got some grapes. Okay, where did they come from? And you can go backwards. And you just end up being grateful all day long for every person who is taking care of you, taking care of your life. And their motive doesn't matter. I mean, maybe they just want to pay the rent or buy some kratom. I don't know. But they're helping. They're helping suffering human beings. I would really suffer if I couldn't drive my car when I need to go get groceries.
I was thinking that kind of practice and that kind of view is just as true as whatever you're receiving through the news on your phone. And it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget that there's a whole world right here and so much is well, and there is a beneficence that we're receiving the gifts of all the time, all the time, all the time. So we did another practice called the smile practice, and that is kind of a controversial one because it can seem like, how dare you smile in the face of all of the horrible things that are happening. This is spiritual bypassing or Pollyanna or, invalidating. And every practice, every tool, right place, right time. It may not be the practice for you right now, but we offered it as a simple experiment. What happens if you just very gently, not even a big toothy grin, but just ever so slightly do a half smile while you're sitting through a period of meditation? See what happens if you add that. We need great determination in our practice, but we also can bring and cultivate a friendliness. Also, our practice can end up being a little held too tightly or grim sometimes. So let's just try it. If you can also just imagine, bring to mind maybe your favorite fragrant flower, and as if you were bringing it to your nose to smell it on that inhale, just letting the mouth smile a little bit. And that can be a practice to carry with you, just echoing the images of Jizo, that subtle smile that is in touch with the truth that all is well, that there is a beneficence beneath everything, the silence that is beneath all the sounds. So those are some practices.
So we encourage everyone to practice meditation regularly, because that helps us touch into the beneficence that is always present, and into the clear awareness that is always present in every single person. And when we're in touch with underlying peace, underlying sanity, underlying clarity, then our path in life is much smoother. And we're more able to bring benefit to the world. However, whatever our piece of the puzzle is, the complete puzzle is helping everyone. But we each have our own particular talents and place to function, to bring benefit to the world. So I encourage you, Jomon encourages you, to keep practicing. And when we reduce our own suffering, then there's less suffering in the world. When together we reduce our suffering, there's that much more. And when people are practicing all around the world, tens of thousands of people, the suffering in the world is decreased. Thank you.